If you've ever worked in the world of big, complex enterprise systems, chances are you've run into a protocol that's been a dependable workhorse for decades. I'm talking about SOAP, the Simple Object Access Protocol. In this explainer, we're going to unpack what it is, the huge problem it was built to solve, and why it's still so incredibly important today.
To really get what SOAP is all about, we have to hop in a time machine. So, picture this. It's 1998. The internet is absolutely exploding. Businesses are scrambling to get online, new applications are being built like crazy, but under all that excitement, a massive technical headache was starting to brew.
And that headache? We can call it the digital handshake problem. Just imagine you've got an app written in Java running on a Linux server, and it needs to get some information from a totally different app, maybe one written in C# on a Windows machine. How in the world do they talk to each other? Back then, it was pretty much chaos. There was no standard, no reliable way for these different systems to just shake hands and exchange data. So the entire tech industry was wrestling with this giant question. How do you build a universal language for business on the web? A common set of rules that any application running on any platform could use to communicate reliably, especially for the really important stuff. And the answer that finally popped up came from Microsoft, also in 1998. It was called SOAP. And its whole purpose was to be a kind of universal postman for the web, to create a standardized protocol that could finally bring some order to all that communication chaos.
So what is it exactly? Well, SOAP is a network protocol for exchanging structured data. The key words there are protocol and structured. See, this isn't just a friendly suggestion, it's a very strict set of rules. And by using XML as its message format, it makes sure every single message has a predictable, well-defined structure.
You know, this analogy from Postman is just perfect. Think about the Postal Service for a second. It has super specific rules, right? You need an address, a stamp, a properly sealed envelope. But if you follow those rules, you can trust that your letter is going to get where it needs to go. SOAP basically applies that exact same logic to digital messages. It is all about rules, reliability, and trust. Okay, so if SOAP is like our digital postal service, let's go ahead and rip open one of the packages. Because every single SOAP message follows a very specific structure, and that's exactly what makes it so predictable and reliable. Every SOAP message has up to 4 main parts. First, you've got the envelope. That's like the shipping box itself. It wraps the whole thing up and says, hey, I'm a SOAP message. Inside that, you'll find the body, which is the actual stuff you're trying to send. Then there are 2 optional parts. A header for extra instructions like authentication details, and a fault block, which is the system's way of saying return to sender with a very specific error code if something goes wrong. Let's look at a real-world example to make this concrete. This right here is a request to a service that validates a book's ISBN. See how the envelope tags wrap the entire message? And inside that is the body. And nested right inside the body is the specific action it wants to take. Is valid ISBN 10, along with the number it's checking. It's perfectly structured, totally readable, and leaves no room for confusion. Of course, you really can't talk about SOAP these days without mentioning its more famous, more modern alternative, REST. And understanding how they're different is absolutely key because it boils down to a fundamental choice between a strict protocol and a flexible architectural style. So here's the breakdown. SOAP is a rigid protocol with strict, non-negotiable rules. It pretty much always uses XML, and its entire focus on the message, that perfectly structured envelope we just talked about. REST, on the other hand, is an architectural style. Think of it as a set of guidelines, not hard and fast rules. It's way more flexible, it can use different formats like JSON, and it focuses on resources, like a user or a product, rather than the message structure itself. And really importantly, SOAP can work over lots of different protocols like emails, SMTP, or TCP, while REST is basically tied to HTTP. So you might be asking, why would anyone choose SOAP's rigidity over all that flexibility from REST? Well, because that rigidity brings some serious advantages to the table. It's platform and language independent, which means it can connect pretty much anything to anything else. Its strict standards allow for really high security, with built-in support for things like WS security, and it has standardized error handling so you always know exactly what went wrong. All of these features make it perfect for those complex, distributed enterprise environments. And make no mistake, this isn't just a history lesson. SOAP is very much alive and kicking, and it's still absolutely critical in a lot of industries where dependability is way more important than flexibility or raw speed. So where is it still king?
Well, think about industries that just can't afford to make mistakes. Financial services, they use SOAP for secure bank transfers. Telecommunications companies, they use it to connect all the different systems they need for billing. Even city management might use it for something like traffic light control, where operations have to be perfectly predictable. In every one of these cases, that built-in security, error handling, and rock-solid reliability are just non-negotiable.
So here's the bottom line, the most crucial point to take away from all this. SOAP provides an industrial-grade, heavy-duty format for business communication. When you're dealing with sensitive data, really complex transactions, or systems that are the literal backbone of a company, you don't always want flexibility. You want a contract. You want rules. You want SOAP.
And that leaves us with a really fascinating final thought. We live in an age that is obsessed with speed, agility, and flexibility, the world of REST and JSON. But as our systems get more and more interconnected, and as the data they handle becomes more and more critical, you have to wonder, is there a point where SOAP's old-school focus on strict, predictable reliability isn't just relevant, but maybe more valuable than ever? Something to think about.